15 years ago, this was a Chinese car, a cheap copy of a Toyota, sold for about $10,000, that nobody outside China took seriously. Today, China builds more cars than anyone on Earth. It sells more electric vehicles than Tesla. It exports more cars than Japan. So what happened in between? This is the story of how China took over the car. Not with one genius invention, with a $230 billion bet, a battery, and a head start nobody in Detroit thought was worth chasing. And the strangest part? America didn't lose this race. It never really showed up. Go back to around 2008. China was already the factory of the world. It made your phone, your shoes, your TV. But cars? Chinese cars were a punchline. They made copies. One of BYD's early models looked so much like a Toyota Corolla, you had to check the badge. They were a decade behind on engines, behind on quality, behind on everything that made a car a car. And the people running China's industry knew it. So they made a decision that sounds insane at first. They decided not to try to win the game everyone else was playing. 100 years of gasoline know-how sat in Germany, Japan, and Detroit. China was never going to catch that. So instead of racing toward the finish line everyone else was running to, China quietly drew a different one: electric. And they didn't bet a little. They bet the house. Between 2009 and 2023, the Chinese government poured at least $230 billion into building an electric car industry from scratch. Tax breaks, so the cars were cheaper. Cash rebates, so people would actually buy them. Charging stations, research money, government fleets bought by the thousands. That is not a subsidy. That is founding an entire industry on purpose. But here's the part that proves it was a plan. As the industry got strong, they pulled the help away. Support per car dropped from around $13,000 in 2018 to about $4,600 by 2023. They built the muscle, then took away the crutch. And the plan started with one insight the West kept missing. In an electric car, the battery is the engine, the hardest part to build, the most expensive part, the part that decides range and price and everything else. Win the battery, and you win the car. So while Western car makers argued about whether electric was even real, China built the world's biggest battery companies. One of them, CATL, now makes a giant share of every EV battery on the planet, including the ones in cars you'd think of as Western. And the other one started in the unlikeliest place imaginable. In 1995, a man named Wang Chuanfu started a company with about 20 people to make rechargeable batteries. Not for cars, for cell phones. Then in 2003, he bought a small, failing car factory and announced he was going to build automobiles. People laughed at him. That company was BYD. Today, BYD sells more electric cars in a year than Tesla does. The phone battery guy won. Quick gut check before the next part. Did America lose this race, or did it just never show up? Because there's a real difference between the two, and I genuinely want to know which one you think it is. Tell me in the comments. Then stay with me, because what China did next is the move nobody saw coming. In 2019, China did something that looked like a huge mistake. They invited their biggest competitor inside the gates. They let Tesla build an enormous factory in Shanghai. Fast approval, cheap land, terms no foreign car maker had ever been given in China. And everyone asked the obvious question: why on earth would you help the enemy? Because it wasn't help. It was a training program. To supply Tesla, hundreds of Chinese parts makers suddenly had to hit world-class standards. Chinese engineers learned how the best electric cars on Earth were built, up close, in their own country. China used Tesla as a teacher for its entire industry. And within a few short years, the students started beating the teacher. Now, put it all together. The bet,
the batteries, the training. In 2023, China passed Japan to become the largest car exporter in the world. The same year, BYD passed Tesla in electric vehicle sales. By 2025, Chinese brands made up around a third of the entire global car market. Walk through any major port in China today, and you'll see thousands of brand new cars stacked and waiting, headed for Europe, Southeast Asia, Latin America, the Middle East. In 15 years, a country that built laughable copies became the country that builds more cars than anyone alive. That does not happen by luck. That happens because somebody wrote it down, funded it, and ran the play for 15 years straight.
So while all of this was happening, where was America? Mostly building trucks. And there's a simple reason why. Trucks and big SUVs are where the money is. A loaded pickup can make a car maker tens of thousands of dollars in profit. A cheap electric commuter makes almost nothing. So Detroit followed the money. They treated electric cars as a side project, a box to check for regulators, while they sold you a $60,000 truck and booked record profits. There was no national mission, no $200 billion bet, no room full of people saying, "We will own the next 100 years of this." And that is the uncomfortable truth at the center of this whole story. America didn't get beaten in a race it was running. It looked at the starting line, decided the prize wasn't worth chasing yet, and walked the other way. China was the only one who actually ran.
And this was never really just about cars. The car industry is millions of jobs: steel, software, batteries, chips. Whoever builds the world's cars ends up setting the rules for how the entire planet moves, and who gets paid when it does. For 100 years, that was America. The car was the American century, the assembly line, the open road, the whole idea that freedom had 4 wheels and a full tank. The next 100 years of the car are being decided right now, while you're watching this. And for the first time in living memory, America is not the one holding the pen. So I'll leave you with the real question. Who wins the next 20 years of the car? China, America, or somebody we're not even watching yet? Drop your bet in the comments. I read every single one. And if you think America can still turn this around, I genuinely want to hear how. Because from where I'm sitting, the race already has a leader. And it isn't us.